Hello, everyone. It's Robert again. This is going to be about my obsession, my passion, my relationship, quote unquote, with video games and the kind of a history of how that developed. Um, so I'll start out by saying, yes, I'm a 43-year-old man that has a video gaming system, PlayStation 4. I have different games for it. I primarily play the Madden football. Um, it's something I've always kind of done, always kind of gravitated to and played consistently. Been very non-committal towards other video games, even though I've bought different ones. That's it's something of it's part of my life. Something that I do consistently for fun. It's not. Sometimes it's an escape when I'm having a bad day, but mostly it's something that I've always found fun to do, and it's been like a hobby. I say obsession, just because it's something I've always been kind of committed to, and it's not a practical thing. It's not like I'm committing to something with work and things like that. I'm committing to it because I get a lot of fun out of it, and I get to be creative in some ways. So, that's just kind of what the modern part of it is. So, I'd like to talk about a little bit of history. So, my relationship with video games began when my parents bought the Atari 2600. That was the first video game system that I ever experienced. It was a lot of fun. I mean, it was new technology. You getting to move people on the TV. As a kid, it's like, wow, it's like draws in your attention. There was a couple of games that I'll always remember that were my favorites. E.T. being one of them. Although now that I look at E.T. as an adult, I don't understand the appeal with it. It was kind of stupid, but I love the movie and I love the fact that I got to play with E.T. So the other one that was my favorite because it had Spider-Man in it was Spider-Man. Pretty simple game, but it was fun. It was cool. I got to crawl up walls with Spider-Man. So that's at the beginning of it, and then we had the Nintendo NES, the original, which was that kind of contributed to become more involved, interested, develop into a passion, because the games were better graphically. The games are a little bit more in depth. Some of the games which I loved were very, very difficult. Like Metroid. Metroid was one of my favorite games, and it was not easy. Ninja Gaiden is another one. There was games that I was not to be cocky, but I was a bright kid, so I liked something that took me a while to figure out. I was a kid. My parents told me when I was a 2 or 3, I was putting puzzles together, big puzzles, 100, 200 pieces. Very into things like that. So video games kind of gave me like something similar, but in a technological way. So there was football games for Nintendo. 10-Yard Fight was the first one. It kind of got me interested, and then it came Tecmo Bowl, which is one of the funnest games you could play. Had Lawrence Taylor, who I was a Giants fan, and the year that I started liking the Giants, Lawrence Taylor won the NFL MVP, and there were the two main dominant characters on Tecmo Bowl were Bo Jackson and Lawrence Taylor, but Lawrence Taylor wasn't the equal, but he was good. So then I started getting into the football games were fun, and I would play against my sister Nicole, and sometimes my brother and my other cousin Sammy. We'd get into heated games, and then whoever lost sometimes would get into fights because we didn't like losing. We were very competitive. So then came out Tecmo Super Bowl. Tecmo Super Bowl was, in my mind, was the funnest game I've ever played in my entire life. It really was when I started to really love football growing up and became knowing more about the game and things like that. And it had the real players, the real teams. And the year that it came out, it was the year that the Giants won the Super Bowl, ironically. So I got to play with a very good Giants team with all the players I loved. And I'm like, wow, they have real players. So that's really started the obsession, passion, uh, looking to play football games. It really started there and has continued till 43 right now. So, and then, the ending of the game was amazing. The Tecmo Super Bowl, it's like you won the quote unquote Super Bowl, and there was like this 3 or 4 minute like different story type thing it was just really awesome to look at, and it's like, wow, this is really cool. So, Nintendo went. The next thing was Sega Genesis, and then that's when John Madden came out. At the time, John Madden was a good commentator, so having his name on it was really cool. The game was kind of different from Tecmo Bowl. It was a little bit more in depth and, just own kind of unique graphically and stuff. And I kind of like attached to that, and I've been playing that ever since. Sega Genesis, PlayStation 2, PlayStation 3, PlayStation 4. I'm not an Xbox person. I've always been kind of loyal to PlayStation. It's because I just had good experience with the games for the most part. I was never a 2K, which is the other dominant football game or maker. I liked it, but I always was like, I always liked Madden better. A lot of people disagree with me, which is fine. So that was my experience. I play other video games, but again, I'm not as I like my Madden. The game. I'm not going to go into what I think of the game now. It's just something I have been playing. The things I like about the game currently, I'll talk about that. I'll stay away from the criticisms. I like the fact that if a player is rated as like a good or an elite player on the game, and you disagree with that, you think he's not as good, you can change that. You can customize it. There's a lot of customizations to the playbooks, to a lot of things on the game, difficulty. I think that's a great thing. And I think the main reason why I still play sports video games is sometimes it's very frustrating in real life when your team is horrible and you got to deal with that for extended seasons. So with video games the way that they are now, you have the ability to become to change that, and you have the ability to make a player that you like that maybe isn't a good to turn him into a great player through the way that it is. So I think those are things that are good. So that's just about the history. It went a little longer than I anticipated, but that's just a background of my relationship with video games, what I do now. I'll talk a little bit more about Madden because that's what I do consistently play. And stay tuned. Thank you.